Hello there, you're in the Beat Sessions. I'm your host, Mitchell Weary. Swedish metal band Meshuggah is back with a new record entitled Immutable. They released that on April 1st. This is the band's 9th studio album and their follow-up to 2016's The Violent Sleep of Reason. And this is a band, very special place in my heart. And if you've seen enough live music, we all have these bands. Bands that you really didn't listen to or really didn't even know of until you saw them live for the first time. And Meshuggah had a chance to see them open up for Tool back in 2002. Amazing show, and I was just immediately blown away by these guys and their sound. We don't talk about a lot of metal on the channel. I don't listen to a lot of metal. I'm really picky about it. But what immediately drew me in with these guys is the way they push the envelope on both sides and the balance that's created in doing so. And what I mean by that is incredible technical ability from all of these musicians. They are amazing to listen to from that element. I talk about metal. I talk about how oftentimes melodies and the music can get lost in some of that technical stuff. And what makes these guys so special is the ability to, the way that all these different timing sequences and structures settle into these great grooves and rhythms. And it just makes their music so unique and so interesting, and why almost 40 years into their career, they're still pioneers of metal music and still doing what they do very well. I dig the jazz element to their music also. You listen to some of this technical guitar playing, really plays off of a lot of jazz components and what's going on in that genre. And I really dig, again, you start listening to some of these technical solos and it takes a moment to catch it, but you hear the melodies and you settle into these grooves. And I'm really just impressed always with their music abilities and the compositions that they put together. This is a band that, 9 studio albums in that time frame. It's not like they're putting out albums, every other year, every 3 years. They certainly take their time with their compositions. I admire them for that. I appreciate their music for that. And, not judging anybody that turns out music, because, some people are just prolific and they have that ability to do that. But these guys, when they put out a record, it hits hard, it hits great, and it's pushing the envelope every single time. There's definitely a lot of familiar territory that you're going to love on this record, but there's some stuff that they're working into unique, interesting territory, as always, as a band, always trying to push that envelope, as I said. And a great effort from them. It's 67 minutes, big double LP. And with their sound and the range of frequencies in their music, I'm willing to bet that if you look at this wax, that 67 minutes is completely filling up both sides of both of those discs. So I appreciate these guys for doing that. It's a big thing. If I'm going to buy a double LP, I want all of that space to be maxed out with as much music as you can put on it. Reasonably so, though. Obviously, we want it to sound good. This thing, it kicks off with Broken Cog, though. Big, excellent, chugging, melodic riff. Love the way this album opens up. It's got this whispered vocal, which is very interesting when you consider a lot of the vocal elements in metal music, but it definitely makes it an intro track. I love the drums on this song. It's got a solid breakdown. Great way to open this thing up. The Abysmal Eye, your second song, probably one of my favorite. It comes in hard with this double bass, but then the rest of the music has this mid-tempo structure, and a fine example of those different timing sequences and the way that all these different elements come together to create these just big, like, head-bogging, just chugging grooves. This song, really just a fine example of that, and it's got a sweet guitar solo as well. Really dig that track. The Light the Shortening Fuse, is your third track. Settles into another big sweet groove. Really like the pace of this record and the way it opens it up. It's going to grab you. It's going to rock you really hard for quite a while. This thing goes into phantoms. Love the structure of this riff and the way it works around the drums. Song has an excellent coda as well. Carrying into Ligature Marks, which is your fifth track. And this is probably the heaviest song on the album up to this moment anyway. Big hard-hitting elements, but it's got this like light contrast to it as well, which makes it very interesting, again, showing off their dynamic range as far as songwriters and the different melodic elements that they work into their music. Really like the coda, and I think those lighter elements are a highlight in that as well. God He Sees in Mirrors is your sixth song. This thing keeps hitting hard. It's got just an incredibly outrageous guitar solo, probably the best guitar solo on the album. Drumming is worth noting as well, very remarkable on that track. They Move Below, your ninth song. This is a big instrumental track, a little over 9 minutes. It's got this big melodic intro. I like the way that it just kind of rests the pace on the album because it's pretty furious to open up. And then, as this thing carries, it starts to build, it gets heavy, but I dig this track. It's really hard to do instrumental songs like this, especially at this length. Fine example of this band and the way that they can keep you engaged with those different structures and sequences and the way those instruments are playing off each other. Absolutely love that track. Kaleidoscope is your eighth song. Another great riff, Really like the chugging, just bobbing feel of that as well. Unique timing sequence, probably one of the more unique ones on this record. And then Black Cathedral, you get a little more of that instrumental feel for your 9th song, which leads into a block of music, your 10th, 11th, and 12th tracks. I Am That Thirst, The Faultless, Armies of the Preposterous. Great songs. If I had a criticism of this record, though, with that length, it just start to get a little monotonous towards the end with these 3 tracks. I feel like from a timing standpoint, they kind of settle into the same groove, and there's not a whole lot experimentally that's going on with any of those tracks that I feel that really hit me. They're great songs, again, don't get me wrong, I like them, but again, if I had a constructive criticism of this album, I'd say at this point it starts to slow a little bit. You get your past tense, your 13th track, a very just mellow instrumental outro to close this thing off. But again, I mentioned that with the wax and filling out that space, those 10th, 11th, and 12th tracks. Give me all that space filled out. I like that music is there. I like that they make that effort to do that. And so, with my minor criticism there, I will throw that out the door because I certainly think that overall this effort is a vinyl please. And if you're not a metal fan, like I said, check these guys out. I dig them. I think you might dig that melodic component that they work into their heavy sound. You might catch yourself in a mood where it just hits right. So we're going to vinyl please this thing, as I said. Hope you enjoyed this record. Hope you find this review helpful. Please like this video, share it, subscribe to the channel, do all the things to help me blow this project up in 2022. And stay tuned throughout the week for more album reviews. We will see you next time on The Beat Sessions.